If you haven't put in the work and it feels like it's a hand you're going to lose, that's a tough decision. But when you've done the work, it's way easier to say, okay, this is going to work out in the end.
And it's got to be the right time also, you know? So going on Joe's podcast, that happened because he was like, hey man, you going to come to the UFC or not? And I was like, hey, why don't you invite me on the podcast? We talked about it. I ended up doing the podcast with Joe and then not signing with the UFC. I re-signed with Bellator, didn't even test free agency. At that time, it didn't feel right. The time before when I re-signed with Bellator, it didn't feel right. But this time it did. In September of 2020, it felt like that door wasn't just open. It wasn't just unlocked. It was wide open and ready for me to walk through. And I can't explain why it was. It was an internal feeling, knowing that it felt right. To those people struggling with that decision, you want to make that decision. Maybe it's the right decision, but it's still the wrong time. And don't act like if you don't make that decision now, that decision's not going to be there a year from now, 2 years from now, 6 months from now, one more business deal from now, one more handshake from now, whatever it may be. James 1:5, he who lacks wisdom, pray for it, and the Lord your God will give it abundantly, right? And just asking for wisdom. I don't know what the right answer is right now. It doesn't feel like I have all the pieces of the puzzle. Just give me the wisdom. Give me the right person to come into my life. Give me the right conversation to have. Give me the right accolade to have, or the failure, or even the failure to have, for me to gain in more knowledge to then be able to make one more step. And sometimes inaction is the best action.
Yeah.
And sometimes inaction is the worst decision you can make. It's the conundrum of life.
It is.